The first wound. There's a moment you will never forget. Not because it was loud, not because it was violent, but because it was quiet. It was just a line tossed out like nothing, maybe even wrapped in a laugh, but cut deeper than a blade ever could. You remember it. Everyone does. The first time someone's words slipped past your skin and found something inside you that you didn't even know was unguarded. A teacher mocking the way you spoke. A friend teasing you in front of others. A parent sighing at your effort like it wasn't enough. They didn't stab you. They didn't scream. They didn't strike. They smiled, and that smile was worse. You laugh it off, maybe. You pretended it didn't hurt. But inside, a storm started. Because insults are never random. They are precision strikes, disguised as casual moments. They are weapons disguised as jokes, daggers hidden in words. And every time they land, they draw a map, not of who you are, but of where you bleed. This is why insults stay with us. Not because of their truth, but because of what they reveal. They whisper, "This is where you're weak." They don't just sting, they expose. And in that exposure, you give away more than you know. The silent theft. Every reaction is a gift to the one who insulted you. The flinch in your eyes, the tightening in your jaw, the forced laugh you offer to smooth the edges. These are coordinates, data points, proof that their arrow hit its mark. And here's the truth no one wants to face. You are never insulted by accident. Nobody stumbles into cruelty. An insult is not a slip of the tongue. It is a probe, a test, a map-making tool to chart your emotions. They want to know where you break. They want to know how much of yourself you'll give away for free. And the moment you explain, defend, or protest, you're not defending yourself at all. You're confessing. Defensiveness is confession. Justification is surrender. Even laughter, nervous, forced, is permission. But silence is strategy. The weight of silence. Why does silence cut so much deeper than words? Because silence denies them data. It denies them certainty. It denies them the reward of knowing that they touched you. Imagine someone hurling an insult like a spear. If you react, you show them where it landed. But if you remain still, unreadable, the spear dissolves into fog. They don't know if they missed. They don't know if you're unhurt or if you're simply holding something they can't see. That uncertainty is power, because insults aren't about truth. They're about control. The one who controls the reaction controls the game. And if you say nothing, if you give nothing, you remain unreadable, unreachable, untouchable. Machiavelli warned, "Whoever reveals his injury gives the enemy the knife again." And most people do. They explain. They clarify. They try to clean the wound in public. But in doing so, they hand the knife back to the one who cut them. The trap of explaining. Think of the last time someone said something sharp to you. Maybe they said you weren't good enough, that you were too much, too quiet, too loud, too cold, too arrogant. What did you do? You tried to fix it. You defended yourself. You argued your worth. But here's the brutal truth. The moment you explain, you've already lost. Because explaining is not strength. It is proof. Proof that their words mattered enough to you that you needed to correct them. And in the world of power, proof is weakness made visible. Here's the irony. You thought you were repairing damage. You thought you were clearing your name. But in reality, you were confirming the insult. You turned their weapon into your own confession. This is why insults feel like poison. Not because of the words themselves, but because of the way we hand them power. Every defense is like drawing a map of our insecurities and giving it to someone who is already looking for it. Insults as mirrors. But here's the shift. Here's the truth that can change everything. An insult is not about you. It is about them. People don't insult to tell you who you are. They insult to reveal who they are in your presence. Their fear, their envy, their insecurity, their hunger for control. When someone says, "You think you're better than everyone," what they mean is, "I believe you are better," and it scares me. When someone says, "You're cold," what they mean is, "I feel small in your detachment." When someone says, "You're not even trying," what they mean is, "You've made something look effortless that I struggle with." Every insult is a confession whispered in disguise. Every mockery is a mask over fear. Every jab is an echo of envy. And when you see insults for what they are, mirrors, not truths, you stop bleeding from them. You start studying them. The emotional battlefield. Think about it. In every social space, boardrooms, classrooms, family tables, street corners, hierarchy is always being written silently, invisibly. People are always testing, probing, challenging, trying to place themselves above or below others. Insults are one of the fastest ways to redraw that map. But the test is not whether you can hit back. The test is whether you will hand them your emotions. They don't need to defeat you. They only need to see you flinch. Because if they can move you, they can use you. That's why the first lesson in insult warfare is not to strike back, but to vanish behind your silence. To refuse to play. To let their weapon fall flat, unanswered, unvalidated. Because the moment you stop defending, you stop confessing. And when you stop confessing, you start controlling. The psychology of insults. Insults are not accidents. They are not slips of the tongue. They are not just jokes. Every insult is a question with a knife hidden inside it. A quiet probe disguised as play. The truth is simple but brutal. People insult you not to express themselves, but to measure you. They are searching for coordinates. They want to see what twitches, what shifts, what bends. And the moment you move, they have their answer. This is why insults feel so sharp. Because deep down, you know you've been scanned. Someone aimed at you, and in your reaction, you handed them a piece of your map. The hidden game. Every insult is a game, but not the one you think. It is not about the words themselves. It is about the reaction economy. The insulter casts bait into the air, waiting to see if you bite. If you laugh nervously, they win. If you argue, they win. If you explain, they win. Even if you snap back with anger, they win. Why? Because in all of those, you've confirmed one thing. Their words matter to you. And once they know their words matter, you've given them a lever. Something they can pull again. Something they can rely on to break you. Defensiveness is confession. Let's strip this back. When you defend, you confess. When you justify, you surrender. When you laugh along, you give permission. The very energy you use to deny the insult is proof that it touched you. And once they know that, the damage is done. Think about this. If someone accused you of being a purple elephant, would you explain? Would you argue? Of course not. It's absurd. You'd brush it off because it holds no weight. So why do you explain when someone says you're weak, or arrogant, or cold? Because part of you fears it might be true. That fear leaks. And the one who insulted you, they smell it instantly. The emotional blueprint. This is why insults are so effective. They are not meant to state reality. They are meant to test it. Your response is not about the insult. It is about your emotional blueprint. Your eyes, your voice, your posture, your tone. All of these reveal what words cannot. And here's the cruel twist. Most people give themselves away without realizing it. They laugh too quickly. They correct too sharply. They deny too desperately. Each reaction is a crack in the armor, and through those cracks, the enemy sees the blueprint of your inner world. That blueprint is priceless. Because once someone knows your emotional architecture, where the nerves lie, where the defenses crumble, they don't need to fight you. They just need to press. Insults as tests of power. Why do people insult? Not because they are careless, not because they are rude, but because they want to measure power. In every group, whether it's a family dinner, a boardroom meeting, or a sidewalk encounter. Power is always shifting. Hierarchies are being rewritten in silence. And one of the fastest ways to rewrite hierarchy is through insult. It's not about truth. It's about placement. The one who insults is asking, "Can I lower your status?" The one who reacts is answering, "Yes, you can." That's the test. And most people fail it. The enemy's weapon. Here's something few realize. People insult not to hurt you, but to protect themselves. Insults are shields disguised as swords. The moment someone feels threatened by you, your confidence, your detachment, your presence, they look for a way to cut you down. They want to test if the shine you carry is fragile. If they can puncture it, they feel safer. If they can't, they feel smaller. And so the insult is thrown like a stone, not to reveal you, but to relieve them. When someone says, "You think you're better than everyone," what they are really saying is, "I feel beneath you." When someone mocks your calmness, what they are really saying is, "Your stillness unsettles me." Every insult is more autobiography than accusation. The trap of reaction. But here is the trap. If you react, you validate them. You confirm that their words landed. You prove that you do care, that you are reachable, that they did touch something real. That is why explaining yourself always backfires. It doesn't protect you. It exposes you. You thought you were setting the record straight, but you were really showing your accuser that they chose the right weapon. You thought you were defending your dignity, but you were actually proving your vulnerability. This is why Machiavelli warned, "He who speaks to justify himself often does more harm than his accuser." Because the moment you try to prove your innocence, you shift the court of power. You move from judge to defendant. And perception is the only court that matters. Silence is strategy. So what do you do instead? You stay still. You stay silent. You stay unreadable. Because silence is not absence. Silence is dominance in camouflage. When you say nothing, when you show nothing, you often no blueprint. You deny them the satisfaction of knowing whether they hit. Your stillness forces them to wonder, did I miss? Did it not land? Or is something worse hiding beneath the silence? That uncertainty eats at them more than any counterattack ever could. And this is where true control begins. Not in striking back, not in explaining, but in starving your enemy of data. Because in the power game, data is everything. The realization. The day you realize this is the day insults lose their grip. The day you stop reacting is the day you stop bleeding. Because insults are not wounds unless you open yourself to them. Think of it this way. Insults are arrows made of paper. They look sharp. They fly. Silence is power. Silence has always terrified people. We pretend to fear words, but what truly unnerves us is their absence. Because silence does not explain itself. Silence does not bend. Silence leaves space, and in that space, fear grows. Think of the last time someone stayed silent after you spoke. The way it stretched, heavy and uncertain. The way it made you question yourself. Did they agree? Did they disagree? Were they offended? Did they even hear? That's the power of silence. It forces the mind to spiral inward, to create monsters out of shadows. Now imagine wielding that silence intentionally. Imagine making it your shield, your fortress, your battlefield. This is the heart of insult warfare. Not to strike back, not to shout louder, not to outwit your enemy with clever comebacks, but to starve them. To take their weapon, words, and smother it under the weight of your stillness. Why silence terrifies? Words are easy. Words are expected. When someone insults you, they are baiting you into a predictable script. You deny, you defend, you retaliate. This is the rhythm most people live in. But silence disrupts the rhythm. Silence bends time. 3 seconds of silence after an insult feels like eternity. 30 seconds feels like a chasm no one dares to cross. Why? Because silence makes them doubt. Did the insult miss? Did you not care? Or are you planning something far worse? That doubt is power. And once you understand this, you will stop fearing silence. You will start mastering it. The fortress of stillness. Silence is not passive. It is not weakness. It is a wall. A wall without cracks, without entry points. When someone insults you, they expect an opening. They expect you to lean forward, to twitch, to flinch. They expect a spark of life in your eyes that tells them they've hit the nerve. But when you give them nothing, no twitch, no flicker, no tightening of the jaw, their strike vanishes into fog. They are left holding their weapon with nowhere to put it. Your stillness becomes a fortress, not because you are numb, but because you're deliberate. You are choosing not to show what you feel. And in that choice, you gain absolute control. Tactics of silence. Silence is not something you stumble into. It is trained. It is sharpened. It must be practiced until it becomes second nature. Tactic 1. The 3-second pause. Before any response, in conflict, in conversation, in confrontation, install pause. 3 seconds of silence. It feels small to you. It feels endless to them. It shifts the rhythm from reaction to calculation. You are no longer the accused. You are the judge who chooses when, if ever, to speak. Tactic 2. The neutral stare. Stand in front of a mirror. Train your face to rest in neutrality. No smile, no scowl. Just stone. Just presence. Not blank, not robotic, alive but unreadable. When someone insults you, hold that face. Do not twitch. Do not frown. Do not soften. Let them throw stones at a wall that does not crack. Tactic 3. The ambiguous reply. If you must speak, say less than they expect. Use words that reveal nothing. Interesting. That's one way to see it. Maybe. Each reply is a shrug that leaves them stranded in their own echo. The less you give, the more they wonder. Tactic 4. Absence as power. Sometimes silence is not staying. It is leaving. When an insult is thrown and you simply walk away, no warning, no defense, no explanation, you send a message louder than any comeback. My presence is valuable, and you just lost it. Why people break under silence. Here's the secret. Most people cannot endure silence. They will fidget. They will ramble. They will backtrack. They will try to fill the void. And in doing so, they expose themselves more than they ever intended. This is why Machiavelli said, "Make yourself feared by your silence and obeyed by your absence." Because silence is not emptiness. It is a mirror. And most people cannot stand to face their own reflection. When you hold silence, you force them to squirm. You force them to check themselves. You force them to wonder if they went too far, if they revealed too much, if they underestimated you. They begin to doubt not you, but themselves. And doubt is the most corrosive force in power games. Silence as camouflage. Think of silence as camouflage. In the battlefield of social interaction, most people show their position the moment they speak. Their words reveal their emotions, their fears, their desires. But silence hides your coordinates. Silence makes you unreadable. Silence forces your enemies to guess, and guessing breeds mistakes. When you are silent, you are not absent. You are everywhere. You are a possibility they cannot pin down. And in power, the one who cannot be predicted cannot be controlled. The transformation. At first, silence will feel unnatural. You will feel the urge to explain, to defend, to prove yourself. But every time you resist, you reclaim power. Silence turns into presence. Presence turns into weight. Weight turns into control. Soon, you will notice the shift. People insult you less, not because they've grown kind, but because they've grown uncertain. They cannot read you. They cannot provoke you. They cannot find the coordinates of your pain. And so the map folds shut. The game ends before it begins. Silence is not absence. Silence is a strategy. Silence is not surrender. Silence is a weapon. And when held properly, silence is fear. Because when they cannot know what you felt, they are forced to imagine what you might do. And imagination is a sharper blade than any word. This is the third lesson of insult warfare. You do not win by shouting louder. You do not win by striking back. You win by starving the game of air until your opponent suffocates in their own noise. Insults as confessions. Every insult is a mirror, not a mirror of you, but of the ones speaking. When people hurl words meant to wound, they are not describing you. They are describing themselves, their fears, their envies, their shadows. What feels like an attack is often a confession disguised as offense. And once you see this, you stop bleeding from their words. You start studying them, what they really mean. Listen closely, not to the insult itself, but to the tremor beneath it. When someone says, "You think you're better than everyone," what they're really saying is, "I see something in you that makes me feel smaller." When they say, "You're cold," they mean, "Your detachment unsettles me. I can't reach you." When they say, "You're arrogant," what they mean is, "Your confidence exposes the lack of mine." When they mock you for not trying, what they're admitting is, "You've done with ease what I struggled to accomplish." Every insult carries a shadow of envy or fear. They're not describing your character. They're declaring their insecurity in your presence. The projection. This is projection at its rawest form. Humans cannot help but reveal themselves through the words they use. Even when they try to mask it as humor, as teasing, as casual banter, the truth leaks through. Their repetition betrays them most. Have you noticed how enemies recycle the same insults? How they circle back to the same lines, the same phrases, the same accusations? That is not creativity. That is obsession. They're not poking you at random. They're circling the wound inside themselves. Every repeated jab is evidence that the insult belongs more to them than to you. The confession in public, an insult whispered in front of others, is rarely about truth. It is a shield, a performance, a desperate attempt to defend against the silent pressure of your presence. When someone mocks you loudly, they are not revealing your weakness. They are advertising theirs. They are saying, "I feel so small around you that I must enlist an audience to help me shrink you." But if you stay silent, if you remain still, the performance collapses. Because the insulter has given away their deepest fear, and you have given nothing in return. The stage becomes one-sided, and they stand exposed. How to use confessions. When you stop seeing insults as attacks and start seeing them as confessions, the battlefield changes. Tactic 1. Catalog the pattern. Keep a mental record of repeated insults. The words, the tone, the timing. These patterns expose what the insulter admires in you, envies in you, or lacks within themselves. They're signals. Tactic 2. The mirror response. Reply once, and only once, with emptiness. A simple, calm phrase, "Interesting," or "It could be," or "That's one way to see it." This is not agreement. It is a verbal shrug that bounces their words back at them. They hear themselves echo with no resistance, and the echo unsettles them more than any counterattack ever could. Tactic 3. Reverse validation. When the insult is false, treat it as though it were true. When it is true, absorb it. Either way, you carry it with indifference. Because the power of an insult dies the moment you refuse to fear it. Imagine someone calls you arrogant. Instead of denying, you smile faintly. Maybe. What can they do? The weapon is useless once you've picked it up willingly. They cannot stab you, with a blade you are holding calmly in your hand. The shift. The moment you adopt this perspective, insults stop being wounds. They become intelligence. Each jab is data. Each mockery is a confession. Each insult is a map of the other person's mind. You no longer react with pain. You observe. You collect. You study. And here's the cruel beauty. The more they speak, the clearer their map becomes. They think they're cutting into you, but in reality, they're bleeding themselves dry. The silence that suffocates. When you let insults hang unanswered, something strange happens. The words they threw at you do not bounce back. They do not vanish. They turn inward, echoing in their own mind. They replay what they said. They analyze your lack of response. They start to wonder, did I go too far? Did I sound foolish? Did everyone see through me? Your silence forces them to feel what they try to make you feel: uncertainty, exposure, doubt. And that suffocates more than any shouted comeback ever could. Insults as emotional intel. You must understand, insults are not truths. They are reports. Reports of envy. Reports of fear. Reports of hidden admiration turned sour. Most people speak only from two places: fear or envy. Both sound the same when dressed as mockery. Fear says, I can't reach you, so I'll try to drag you down. Envy says, you have what I cannot, so I'll pretend you don't deserve it. Once you recognize this, you stop treating insults like verdicts. You start treating them like evidence, becoming untouchable. The real power here is not in striking back. It is in refusing to validate the confession. Let them insult. Let them circle. Let them repeat. Every word is another page in the diary they don't know they are writing. And the more they reveal, the more you own. Because you are no longer the one on trial. You are the observer, the collector, the strategist. You are not bleeding, you are studying. And the silence you hold becomes heavier with every passing moment. Not numb, not weak, deliberate, calculated. They don't realize it, but the moment they open their mouth to insult you, they mark the exact place where they fear you, training emotional detachment. Most people believe power comes from strength, from aggression, from pushing harder than others. They believe it lives in louder voices, sharper words, faster comebacks. But the truth is quieter, more brutal, more demanding. Real power comes from restraint, from the ability to feel but not to flinch, to absorb the fire without smoke leaving your lips, to remain still while others unravel. This is what emotional detachment really is. Not the absence of feeling, but the refusal to be ruled by it. Why detachment matters? The world is cruel to those who are predictable. If your emotions can be moved at will, then you are not in control of yourself. You are a puppet, and whoever knows the strings can pull them. That's why insults land. Not because the words carry truth, but because you expose yourself the moment you react. You give them a map of your nerves. Detach, and the map folds shut. Detach, and a knife cannot find its way inside. Detach, and you become untouchable. The neutral face. Start with your face. It is the first betrayer of your inner storms. Anger tightens the jaw. Shame lowers the eyes. Nervousness flickers across the brow. Train your face until it becomes stone. Not blank, not lifeless, but neutral. A resting presence that absorbs tension without spilling it back. Stand in front of a mirror. Stare. Hold your gaze with no message in it. Not approval, not rejection, just presence. Let your face become unreadable, a mask so natural it feels like skin. Because when people cannot read your face, they cannot read your soul. The still body. Next, your body. The nervous system leaks through movement. Twitching fingers, tapping feet, sudden shifts. Each motion tells on you. Each motion is a confession. Stillness is your armor. Sit or stand like stone. Breathe slow, steady, deliberate. Move only when you choose to. not when provoked. Each gesture should feel weighted, intentional, as though you are unsheathing a weapon slowly, not fumbling for it. The one who does not fidget commands the room, because stillness is unnatural to most, and what is unnatural is intimidating. The slowed voice, then your voice. Emotion leaks most through speed. People rush when afraid, stumble when embarrassed, raise their pitch when angry. Slow your speech. Lower your tone. Let silence live between your words. Speak as though time bends around you, as though pressure cannot reach you. When you speak slower than everyone else, you train a room to match your rhythm. You create psychological gravity. And the slower you speak, the less chance emotion has to slip through uninvited. The mantra of detachment. Even with training, provocation will come. There will be moments where your chest burns, where your throat tightens, where your mind begs you to defend yourself. This is when you use your internal mantra. No one deserves my reaction, not because you are above them, but because they are beneath your strategy. Repeat it until it becomes instinct, until every insult bounces against that wall inside you and falls flat before it reaches the surface. Your emotions are currency. Don't spend them on beggars. Meditation as armor. Before stepping into spaces of tension, the workplace, the family gathering, the negotiation, meditate. Not for calmness, but for armor. Close your eyes. Picture yourself being provoked. Imagine the insults, the laughter, the pressure. Now visualize your reaction, or rather, your lack of one. See yourself unmoved. See the words falling like stones into fog. When you train your mind this way, you inoculate yourself against ambush. You enter the battlefield already immune. The psychological kill zone. Here's what happens when you master attachment. Someone insults you, waiting for the flinch. You give nothing. At first, they feel bold. They try again. Louder this time. Sharper. Still nothing. Then doubt creeps in. Did they miss? Did they misjudge you? Are you stronger than they thought? Their own reflection begins to terrify them. They expected sparks. Instead, they find silence. They expected fire. Instead, they find stone. And in that vacuum, they unravel. Your lack of reaction becomes a mirror they cannot endure. Containment. Understand this clearly. Detachment is not arrogance. It is containment. Arrogance leaks. Arrogance announces itself, demands recognition. Containment is quiet. Containment is invisible. Containment is power you choose not to reveal. When you are contained, you do not beg. You do not defend. You do not even seek respect. You simply are. And in that stillness, respect becomes unavoidable. Because nothing is more commanding than someone who cannot be provoked. Absence as a weapon. Sometimes the strongest move is not silence, but absence. When someone insults you, and you respond not with defense, but with departure, you steal the air from their lungs. Your absence becomes louder than any retort. It leaves them with nothing but regret, confusion, and the hollow knowledge that your presence was worth more than their words. Leaving is not weakness. Leaving is punishment, because you have taken away the one thing they cannot replicate. You. Becoming untouchable. The goal is not to win arguments. The goal is to erase the need for them. To rise so far above the noise that you no longer hear it. You don't fight off attacks. You erase their meaning. You stop being an opponent. You become the terrain, and no one can insult the ground they walk on. Detach, and you become uninsultable. Detach, and you no longer bleed when cut. Detach, and you carry silence like a blade, slicing deeper than any word. Because when they cannot move your emotions, they cannot move you. Be untouchable. There is a silence that suffocates more than any scream. A silence that doesn't beg, doesn't explain, doesn't perform. A silence that weighs heavy on the room, bending it around you, until every voice grows smaller in its presence. This is the silence you must become. Not passive, not numb, not cold, but controlled, decisive, fireproof. The kind of silence that tells people, you cannot touch me. You cannot reach me. You cannot move me. This is what it means to be untouchable. Not defended, but beyond the need for defense. Not respected because you asked for it, but because you left no room for disrespect to land. The hunger that betrays. Most people walk into every room with a hunger. They want to be liked. They want to be accepted. They want to be validated. That hunger bleeds out of them. It seeps into their voice, their eyes, their posture. It is why insults land, because somewhere inside, they still crave approval. They still hope the world will treat them fairly. But the one who cannot be insulted has burned away that hunger. He no longer seeks belonging. He no longer craves to be understood. He carries himself as though nothing is owed, as though no insult could ever touch what he does not offer. This is why silence works. Because you are no longer seeking. You are standing. And nothing is more intimidating than a man who does not beg for dignity, but embodies it. The ghost frame. When someone insults you, they are issuing a challenge. They're trying to cast you in their play, to pull you onto their stage, to make you a character in their story. The trap isn't a reaction. The moment you argue, defend, or protest, you accept their frame. You confirm their narrative. You step willingly into the role they wrote for you. But when you stay silent, when you remain unreadable, you dissolve the stage itself. You don't fight their script, you burn it. This is what I call the ghost frame, where their words pass through you like smoke, where their performance collapses because you refuse to exist inside their play. It is not weakness, it is superiority, because you're operating above their game, beyond their reach. They throw stones into fog, and in the silence, they lose themselves. The shadow of doubt. Insults are attempts to lower your status, but silence reverses the current. When you give them nothing, when your eyes neither blink nor soften, when your body remains still, the current flows back on them. Doubt enters their chest. Did I misjudge him? Did I go too far? Did everyone see me fail? The silence echoes, not in your mind, but in theirs. It becomes their burden, their obsession. They replay it over and over, imagining consequences, fearing judgments that never even came. And that fear is yours now. You own it. You created it without speaking a word. The final tactics. If you want to embody this fully, if you want to become uninsultable, here are the disciplines you must train until they are part of your blood. Tactic 1. Resting intimidation. Your posture must never beg. Shoulders back, breathing slow, eyes steady. A presence that fills the room without noise. This is not arrogance, it is containment. Tactic 2. Absence as punishment. When disrespected, don't argue. Don't explain. Leave. Quietly. Without warning. Without anger. Your absence will haunt them far longer than your words ever could. Tactic 3. Silence as echo. When an insult lands, let it rot in the air. Let it collapse under its own weight. The louder they throw, the more devastating your quiet becomes. Because silence, when held, is not emptiness. It is a mirror, beyond defense. This is no longer about defense. Defense assumes you're under attack. Defense assumes you're vulnerable. No, to be untouchable is to erase the idea of being attacked at all. To move beyond defense into dominance. To live in such control of your own reactions that no one can pull you where you don't choose to go. You do not win by resisting. You win by transcending, by being so still, so unreadable, that their weapons dissolve before they reach you. The presence that commands. Look into the eyes of those who carry this silence, and you will understand. They are not loud. They are not desperate. They are not swayed by provocation. They are the terrain others must walk on, the air others must breathe. They make others feel watched, not judged, just seen. And that alone breaks people more than any insult ever could. Because insults need targets. And when the target disappears, the weapon crumbles. The untouchable. This is where it ends. You do not defend yourself. You do not explain. You do not justify. You do not flinch. You are not defended. You are untouchable. Insults do not bounce off you. They vanish before they arrive. Not because you are hard, but because you are empty where it matters. Not because you are arrogant, but because you are contained. You're no longer playing their game. You're no longer standing on their stage. You are the silence in the room, the weight in the air, the presence that bends others around it. And in that presence, no insult can live.